This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English, episode number 323, baby. Oh yeah. In today's episode, I speak to the Hellraiser. Yes, he is back and he is bad, as always. And we talk about drinking alcohol, because I've seen that drinking alcohol has got a bit of a bad name at the moment. So I thought I would just make a case for the benefits of drinking. So keeping things very rock and roll and doing things the right way here, as always. Remember, if you have any difficulty understanding any of this, then check out my online course, Jungle Listening, which is the only course on the market which breaks down fast spoken jungle English and transforms it into something simple and learnable. But that's enough of me talking. I will talk to you at the end. Happy listening. Hellraiser, how are you today?
Wonderful. You?
Always fantastic, Hellraiser, even though we are recording this on Zoom and you are a big blur. You told me you have condensation on your computer. I'm still not 100% sure how that happened.
It's just hazardous weather where I am. We're having some bad weather, and condensation got its way into the camera.
Yeah, generally I can understand that for Windows. Very strange for computer cameras.
I know. It's a first for me too, but I think we can get through it. If you squint, you can see me, right?
Just about. Lovely vocabulary there. Squint, sort of close your eyes a bit. But anyway, Hellraiser, how do we usually start the show?
Reviews.
Do you think we have a review?
Yeah.
Unfortunately not. I haven't really been pushing reviews recently. Not only that, I think this is almost to the day 7 years since Rock and Roll English started. So anniversary pod, no reviews. What a horrible way to start the new year, hey?
That is sad. And also, why didn't you tell me it was the anniversary pod? I would have not got condensation in the camera, for starters. Secondly, we could have done some kind of celebration.
Yeah, like we did for your birthday. Remember that? We had a real big podcast for your birthday, didn't we?
Did we?
Yeah, it was so mental that you can't even remember it, okay? That's how crazy it was. Which actually kind of brings me on to today's topic, actually, because something I wanted to discuss with you, Hellraiser, because one of our good friends now has put himself firmly on the wagon, said he's not drinking anymore. And this is, I think, a trend which I've heard. It says young people are drinking less now. And some of them are actually teetotal. I actually got a statistic. 26% of people in the UK from 16 to 24 are now teetotal, meaning they don't drink.
No way. A quarter? That's huge.
That is what I got from my 5 minutes research. And I see you fluctuating, Hellraiser. You're one extreme or the other, really, aren't you? You're on the wagon, not drinking, or it seems like you're trying to destroy the wagon and
set the wagon on fire. Well, just going back 25%. That's a lot of boring people.
Exactly. In fact, this is the point of the podcast. Well, number one, to see how ingrained it is in our culture. Number two, I think drinking's got a bit of a bad name, so I thought we could talk about some of the benefits of just getting drunk. Benefits
of boozing.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good podcast title, actually. Benefits of boozing. Yeah. So, what about you? Where are you at the moment, Hellraiser? What's your status?
So I had a 10-month off period.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to see how it was, really.
Okay.
And then Christmas came along, and I thought I'll go back off the wagon, so set the wagon on fire. So I did. I mean, Christmas is quite a difficult time to kind of meet up with people and not have a drink, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So I thought I'd have it as my go month, my green month.
Yeah, in our WhatsApp chat, you described it as, your go month where you said yes to everything. So I liked the word everything there. Not only just alcohol, just everything.
Pork pies, everything, loads of things.
Okay. So, and where are you now then? So that was Christmas. Are you still on the yes, or is it back on the wagon?
Back on the wagon now.
Right. Okay.
So, but I can still talk about the benefits of booze.
Still more than qualified to talk about the benefits of alcohol.
Not a problem.
Right. So, well, I thought we could look as well how it's so ingrained in our culture, because like you said, it's difficult to meet up and not drink alcohol with people in the UK, right, because it's such a part of the culture. So I thought we could start with when we were kids. So your first experience with alcohol. I remember my dad, for example, giving me some beer when I was probably 8 or 9, and it tasted like the most disgusting thing in the world, just thinking, what the hell is that? And I remember talking to my mum, and she was saying, well, what are you going to do when you get older and go to the pub? And I said, well, I'm just going to drink orange juice.
Which you did do a couple of times.
Yeah, generally vodka and orange juice, but
yeah.
But yeah, do you remember those early days tasting alcohol?
I do, yeah. I remember when I was quite young, my nan, Irish nan, used to put whiskey
Irish
on the finger.
Irish grandmother must love drinking.
She doesn't, but she likes other people to drink.
Okay.
So it would be, you can get the baby to sleep a bit easier if they have a finger of whiskey or whatever. But then I remember being around sort of 8, 9, 10, and then trying beer and thinking, God, this is disgusting. And then having shandy in a can, which was, half lemonade, half beer, and thinking, I can deal with this. And having one, and it was like probably 0.1%, and thinking, whoa, this is crazy shit.
Yeah, that strange thing though of like, I don't think anyone drinks alcohol for the first time and says this is amazing, but it's like you have to force yourself to like it. In fact, when we first started going to the pub, sort of 16, I wasn't really a fan of beer, but I kind of thought, I can't say I'm going to have orange juice like I told my mum I would. So you think I'm just going to have to drink this until I like it. And obviously now I love a pint of beer, but then it's like you have to force yourself to do something which doesn't actually taste very well, but just because everyone else does it.
Yeah, but then after about 3-6 months, then you've broken the back of it, and you're like, okay, I can do this without being sick now. Like smoking, like red wine, whiskey. No one likes any of those things when they first do it. You just have to push yourself.
Yeah, just keep advice to all 16-year-olds. Yeah, you might not like it now, but just keep going, and then you will get there in the end. And
there'll be a point where you can't give it up, and it's just a weird, ironic cycle
until you get to like nearly 40, and then have like 10-month periods of not drinking. So I actually, as well, talking about culture here. On the street I live in now in the UK, there are actually 2 pubs, and we got a Christmas card from both of those pubs. Christmas cards from the pub.
That's lovely. That's great.
Yeah, I know. I thought, wow, and it made me just want to go there and get drunk. Obviously, I think it was a marketing strategy, but a bloody good one at that.
Did you go? Did you receive the card and just go there and go on a bender?
Lovely term there, a bender. It's difficult to describe that one, really, isn't it? Of just going out and not knowing where you're going to end up and putting anything in your body, really, isn't it?
I guess the posh way to say it would be like throwing caution to the wind.
Right, yeah. But no, I haven't been on a bender, because the last time I went on a real bender was in September, I think, and I kind of thought, I don't think I will ever do that again, because the recovery period after a bender with kids is very, very difficult to deal with. Very difficult. When you get woken up with kids jumping on you at 6 o'clock in the morning but again, going for just for anyone that is teetotal and thinking drinking's not great, the fun I had on that day, the day before, was just not comparable to anything else that has happened to me in the last 5 years, including getting married.
So what you're saying, it was worth it?
Yeah, I would say, but just to make sure it doesn't happen regularly. But it was just one of the best memories I have of that night is because I say night. We started drinking at midday, and I think I was home by 10. But
that's not bad. That's a 10-hour session. That's pretty good.
But I remember being on the train, and sort of everything sort of moving, like spinning in your head, and just it was quite fun to try and make people think that I wasn't about to die, which I felt like I was about to. But it was quite a fun game for me just to sort of think, can I keep my head still without moving it left and right?
And look straight forward without like your eyes flickering from left to right.
And can I actually get up off this chair? There's lots of fun games. But so going back to the culture thing, listen to this on my 5 minutes research, Hellraiser. Yeah. This was from the BBC as well, this study. No other generation drank as much in their early 20s as people in Britain as those born between 1980 and 1985.
Wow, that is us.
Exactly. Apparently in 1950, the average British person had 3.9 litres of alcohol, okay, which in terms of like bottles of wine, I think would be around about 35 bottles of wine, okay? In 2004, which was, I would say, probably our peak, apparently that was the year with the highest consumption of everyone having 9.5 litres, which is the equivalent to 100 bottles of wine a year.
9.5 litres of alcohol?
Yep.
Pure alcohol?
Pure alcohol,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah. The equivalent of 100 bottles of wine. So we had that peak. So that's something I suppose that we can be proud of. And there were some reasons for this. So apparently the mid-90s were when the Alco Pops came out. So it says here, including Hooch. So for anyone that wasn't living in the UK in the mid-90s, Hooch was kind of, I suppose, like orange juice, really, wasn't it? Fizzy orange juice.
Friendly booze.
Yeah. And was aimed at people that probably didn't like beer. So people started drinking more. And in fact, it got me thinking of the first time I got drunk, I was drinking Smirnoff Ice, which was kind of like lemonade. But again, it's not really a strong look, is it? So now if I'm I'm nearly 40, if I'm going out drinking Smirnoff Ice,
someone's going to call the police.
Yeah, there's people are very judgmental in the UK. In fact, with some friends not that long ago, only a few years ago, I ordered a pint of Carling, a specific beer, and everyone I was with just
shook their head. Yeah, good. It's a terrible beer. What's wrong with it?
Well, from my university days, that was the cheapest one. So I just still got that from my 2004 peak of drinking. Just thought, well, I'll have a Carling because that's the cheapest one. So then I'll be able to drink more because I'm drinking the cheap one.
Times change though, don't they? I mean, you can get away with that when you're a student who has like about 30 quid a week. But as a,
English teachers only get that much as well. So.
Oh, right. Okay. So financially, you haven't changed. It's just your age has changed.
Not at all. And
nobody knows about the backstory. They just see your age.
And that's why I honestly think I've said this before, like £20, if someone gives me a £20 note, yeah. I don't think I will ever get to the point in life where I think that's not a lot of money. If I've got a £20 note, I'm thinking, oh God, I'm having a big one.
Ready for action.
This is it. I'm going out with a score, as a £20 note can be referred to, in my back pocket. I am having it. And yeah, just living in the UK in general, when, for example, was looking at some jobs recently, and then you see some jobs and it says like £10 an hour. And in my head, I still think, well, I remember working at the supermarket and getting paid £3.40. Yeah. You had to work. I actually used to work after school from 5 till 8. So I had to work 3 hours. So my 3-hour shift, and I was getting like £10.
Yeah, but they were a sweet £10 though, wasn't it? I mean, you could. I mean, you remember withdrawing that crisp £10 note, going to the pub and having 5 beers.
But that's what I'm saying. £20 for me is always going to be a lot of money. Remember as well, Hellraiser, in the city where we grew up, it was a town then actually. There was one cash machine where they would let you withdraw £5. So
that was oh yeah, that was a popular one.
So yeah, great time. So other reasons that consumption increased was apparently to the increase in vertical drinking. Do you know what this is, Hellraiser?
Oh, it sounds great. What is it?
Well,
standing up.
Well, because that's what I thought. My first thought was, well, what is horizontal drinking?
Drinking in bed.
Literally.
Yeah. When things are really bad, maybe.
just the idea of lying flat on your back and drinking. But no, apparently vertical drinking was the introduction of like disco pubs, let's say. So like traditionally in a pub you'd be sitting down, but when you went to those kind of like bars, as they're called, you'd have like high tables and you would be standing drinking.
So that makes you drink more. I think it's because they usually played shit music that you had to be drunk to enjoy it. That was the main thing, and they were terrible places. And they still are.
Absolutely.
Much prefer a sit down beer.
Oh, these days, yeah, but then
these days,
yeah. I mean, as well. So there were two, I would say, objectives of mine. Every time I went out, in, let's say the peak 2004. Number one was to drink as much alcohol as possible and get as drunk as possible, and number two was to try and find a female friend. Now, number two very rarely happened, but I used to go to those places in the hope that it would be happen. I kind of think it's like football. Like there's always a chance, even for someone like me. Okay, that was my mentality in 2004. It's not going to happen, I know, but there's a 0.01% chance that a female may say hello to me, and even that was a win. That was a win.
But you have to put your shin pads and your boots on and get out on the field, don't you?
Oh, exactly. You have to be there.
Yeah, you have to be there. That showing up is the first part, right?
Absolutely. You have to be in it to win it, as they say.
What do you think your ratio of money spent to finding female friends ratio would be?
I would not want to think about that ratio. Or even just ratio of going out. So again, if you may use a football analogy, you think of maybe like a striker, for example. You talk about how many goals he scores in every game. So he might score, for example, 1 goal every 2 games. Yeah, we're talking. I would have been the worst striker in the history of football. Put it that way. But going back to other reasons, so there is upselling strategies apparently started. So when people, for example, asked for vodka and orange, Jack Daniels and Coke, people would try to upsell and say, how about a double? Now, you obviously you've got in your broad experience, Hellraiser, is that one of the techniques you used when selling people alcohol?
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah. I mean, we were even told to do that by the brewery companies. They were like, just I'll make it a double.
Well, and I think of myself there. So many times I've been in that situation. You go up, Jack Daniels and Coke, please, and they say, "Do you want a double?" And you think, "Fuck it, why not? Let's go for it."
Well, everyone does, doesn't they?
Exactly. Yeah. And reminded me actually of a night out it was actually in the pub night. We had Hellraiser in a pub many years ago, more than 20 years ago now, and we both went our separate ways after this. Had lots of doubles of whiskey, of Jack Daniels and Coke, and that was when I woke up. One of the only times I've woke up in my own sick. So
I do remember that. But weren't they serving us triples then? I think that was the problem.
I think maybe we mentioned that to ourselves to make ourselves feel better. I'm not 100. I'm not 100% sure if that was true, but
that does sound like a made-up story. Now I've repeated it.
Yeah, but let's go with it. Sounds.
I think
good.
It was triples. Yeah,
definitely.
That's why you were sick in. And was it your own house you were sick in?
Let's not go there, Hellraiser. Okay?
I don't think it was, but yeah. Maybe that's for another podcast.
For another podcast. I woke up with sick. Okay, that's all we need to know. We don't need to go any further into that story. So it says here as well that around that time, young people regarded alcohol itself as crucial to a night out. Was that your mentality, Hellraiser?
Of course. Why would you go out without it? I mean, I couldn't think of anything worse than being in a social situation without some kind of booze or a club or just no. Why would you go and watch the football without a beer? Why would you do that?
I agree. I once made the mistake of round about that time of being Des. Maybe you can explain to people what I mean by that, Hellraiser.
Being designated driver. So you go out with everybody and you have to drive everybody home.
I have got no idea why I volunteered to do that. But after that, I thought I am never, ever going to do that again in my whole life. It was absolutely awful. We in a nightclub, it's loud music, everyone's really drunk, you're not, and then you're trying to pretend you're having a good time, and then to make things even worse, you have to drive everyone home that are all completely drunk in the back of the car.
Yeah, and you've watched them have a great time. And they're all, buying takeaways and eating them in your car, and it doesn't sound great.
No. So, again, advice to young people, never be Des, just go out and get as drunk as possible.
This is the pro-alcohol podcast, right?
Yeah. And something else it says here, that apparently around that time, preloading became something of a thing. And by preloading, it meant drinking at home before you went out. Now, I mean, it's a stupid question for me to ask you that, Hellraiser, because I remember many a time in your bedroom when we were 16 or 17, getting as drunk as possible. But the thing I think about, when we must have gone downstairs, like after drinking a bottle of vodka, like what like your mum was thinking.
That's why we just had to get out of the house really quickly after listening to the Kylie Minogue album on repeat. What are these guys doing up there listening to Kylie Minogue on repeat, drinking a bottle of vodka for?
I specifically remember once at Corporal Comer's house. Okay, so the story of Corporal Comer's house will continue in the members area, the Rock and Roll English family membership area, with 1,000 extra podcasts, weekly online lessons, and lots more. So if you would like to listen to the rest of the episode and become a member, go to rockandrollenglish.com, then click membership. So let's have a look at some of the vocabulary from today. We spoke about the Hellraiser's video being a bit blurry. So if something is blurry, especially videos, it's not very clear. The Hellraiser spoke about being teetotal and how young people now are teetotal, 26%, I think it was. So if you are teetotal, it means you do not drink, or I think it also means you don't take drugs. Let's say you don't put harmful substances into your body. I mentioned how the Hellraiser's position is always fluctuating, so changing. He's on the wagon, he's not on the wagon. And there's another one, on the wagon. When you are on the wagon, you are not drinking alcohol. We spoke about Alco Pops, which came out in the 90s. So alcoholic drinks which are kind of made to seem like soft drinks, like lemonade and things like this. We spoke about Des, the designated driver. not recommended to be Des, by the way. Go out and get drunk is my advice to you. But don't drive, obviously. Definitely not that. What I'm saying is don't go out, not drink and drive. That's just terrible, especially if you're with lots of people who are drinking. Then we had the word upselling, when people upsell you, for example, a double whiskey and Coke. That means when you're already buying something and then someone tries to sell you something else. We spoke about how alcohol has been and is so ingrained in our culture, such a big part of it. Then we spoke about going on a bender. So a bender when you go out, let's say at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, and you may not come home till 3 p.m. on Monday. That would be a 2-day bender. And then we had let's go with that, when we were talking about the story about when I woke up in my bed covered in sick, and the Hellraiser said, weren't we drinking triples? And I said, let's go with that. Okay, let's just say that's true, even though it's probably not. So there we have it. All of the vocabulary is on the website, rockandrollenglish.com. Click podcast episodes, then click the latest episode. I will talk to you all very soon, people. But in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.